Okay, well, hello everybody. This is Leon Crandall with the Coming Unto Christ podcast. I'm excited today to introduce a great man, Brad Meredith. He came to know a dear friend of mine, Mark, and he just really wanted to be able to share his experiences, his journey to Christ, and I'm excited to have Brad with us. How you doing, Brad?
I'm doing great. Thankful to be here. Appreciate it.
Good. Excellent. So Brad and I share a little bit. We both love to run. He is an avid runner, so we're excited to kind of hear that a little bit. I always like to talk to people who love to run as much as I do. However, I haven't been doing it as much lately, building this house, which is pretty much done. So we're good. We'll be moving in soon, but that's beside the point. We are here to talk about Brad. So Brad, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you live?
Yeah, so right now I live in Layton, Utah, just north of Salt Lake a little bit. Actually, yeah, my brother has a home here and I'm able to rent from him. So yeah, definitely grateful for the rate he gives me. But yeah, northern Utah, really enjoy it up here.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there. I love that place. It's gorgeous. Did you didn't have any fires up there by you like Provo did just a few weeks ago?
No, nothing too close. Yeah, nothing concerning.
That was pretty sad. All that mud that went down the hill. It was crazy.
Yeah, right.
Did you grow up in Layton?
No. Well, I was born in Bountiful, actually.
Bountiful. Okay.
Yeah. And then we actually did live in Layton until I was about 7. And then my dad, he worked for the phone company, had an opportunity to transfer to Minnesota. And so we moved to Minnesota when I was actually just before I was 8. We moved there and then I got baptized. And I remember the only people that was there was my family and the pianist, and she brought cookies. So yeah, it was definitely a special day. Didn't know anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Minnesota's pretty small, or it used to be. How old are you?
37. No.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, the church wasn't quite as expansive there in Minnesota. My wife's from Wisconsin, and so pretty small. I think it's kind of grown since then, but yeah, it's pretty cool. So how long did you guys live in Minnesota?
We only lived there for 18 months. Just the cold wasn't a big fan of. So then my dad got a job transfer to Oregon, and that's where I consider I grew up, was Southern Oregon. It's called Grants Pass, from 4th grade to my junior year of high school. And yeah, that's where I consider home, but I've been in Utah ever since now, so
Nice.
20 years.
Okay. How many siblings do you have? And
Yeah, so I am the second. There's 4 of other. He's 2 years older than me, and then myself, and then I've got my sister who's 4 years younger than me, and then my youngest brother who I live here with him.
Oh, nice.
Doing really well.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, thank you for the introduction. So with that, Brad, I'm going to turn you loose. Go ahead and kind of share with us a little bit about, and we'll go from there, brother.
Okay, yeah. No, it's kind of a scripture that pops into my mind to start my life. Is right at the beginning of First Nephi, born of goodly parents. And I don't mean that in like maybe a monetary way, that maybe Nephi's parents were wealthy or not. My parents were both members of the church. They were born into the church. Their parents were members of the church, going back to pioneers. And so I was born under the covenant, grew up in the church, very diligent, very strict, church every Sunday, mutual scouts every Wednesday, family home evening on Monday, family scriptures, usually in the evening. We tried to get it. There's a phase where we did in the morning. It was our lifestyle. It was all I knew. And it was great. I didn't know any different. I truly didn't. And like I say, I was born in Utah, moved to Minnesota, grew up in Oregon. And then in Oregon, when I was 17, my dad had another opportunity to move back to Utah. and we held a family council. It was after my junior year going into my senior year. So the question was, do we finish out my school and let me do another year, or, do we make the jump? And it was kind of ironic. I had gone to EFY that year before, and I had met a really cute Utah girl. And I got thinking with my hormones, and I was like, yeah, let's move to Utah. I wanted to go be with this girl, And so I moved just after my junior year, moved to my senior year, back to Utah, of all places. And that's when things started to get rocky. Things started to fall apart. Just moving to a new place, I think really, we had a lot of really close family friends in our ward in Oregon, and just moving to a new place, it just takes time to get involved. And, as a teenager, I started hanging out with different, kids, and it's, we kind of lost our way a little bit and stopped going to church. Some anti-Mormon material came up, some hard feelings and some offensive things happened that got taken personal. My family stopped going to church. It just, we quit being in routine. And also at that point, I just turned 18, and I, at that point, had the choice if I wanted to continue to go. I'm an adult now. I get to make my own decision. And I started experimenting with different things. I started hanging out with the kids that, were drinking and using tobacco and, partying, and it starts off so slow, but it very quickly spirals out of control.
So Brad, let me ask you a question. Yeah. Before the shift and the move, what was your relationship to God, to Jesus Christ? Like, I know you said you had family prayer and family scripture study, but as a personal individual, what was your relationship, or how did you see them when you were younger?
Great question. I really didn't have much of a relationship with God. I would say I didn't consciously make any sins, believe it or not. Thinking back on my life, the first time I can really recognize that I made a bad choice, I was about 16, and I can consciously remember. Before then, I just kind of naive to the whole thing. It was like I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't really have a relationship with God.
And I guess there was maybe no need, or you didn't feel like there was a need, right? You heard of him or them, you read about them, you talked about them, but yet maybe it was like, oh, well, yeah, they exist. Yeah, they're great, but that's about the extent of it.
Yeah, I would say, growing up, my testimony was dependent on my parents. They led the scriptures. They let, this is just what we did. I didn't have a choice to a degree. I always have a choice, but it was just what we did. I didn't know any different. And so I didn't really have a testimony for myself of God and of Jesus under this church. It was good. In hindsight, I didn't know good and bad before because I had no perspective. But yeah, life was great from what I knew, because I didn't know what not great was at that point.
Right. Okay. Wow. So now you're given the opportunity to make a choice, and you see that, hey, this group of people seems, fun. So let's hitch on there.
Yeah. Boy. Man, one of the first experiences I ever had with, drinking was we were actually in a church parking lot. It was the evening, and someone pulled out some beers, and it was that first time. It's like, hey, try this. And, we're always taught to, dare just say no. But I didn't. I remember consciously that first time taking a sip, and it was horrible. It tasted nasty, but it was what we were doing. And very shortly, a cop snuck up on us and pulled us. Got us all in trouble. Had to call my dad that first time. I just turned 18. I think I was still at the tail end of my senior year. I was hanging out with some kids that were, I think, in my stake. So it was like the LDS kids were involved in this,
Mm-hmm.
in Oregon, there was only, I'd say maybe like 20 of us that were LDS. And it was a very we didn't do that. But here you come to Utah, and some of the same kids, not everyone, some of the same kids that I would see at church were some of the same kids you'd see at the party. And it just, I had my first experience with alcohol, and actually had kind of a bonding experience with my dad over that, because he came and picked me up and was cool and understanding and said, let's not tell mom about this. And it just slowly from there, partying every weekend, girls, and fast forward, boy, graduate high school. I had the opportunity to meet with my bishop, because potentially going on a mission at that point was in question, and met with my bishop and came clean with stuff. And he was doing his job. He said, we should probably meet for the next year and get you ready, So I met with him for week after week for, several months, until I think I just got to a point where, I don't know, I got involved with another girl. And then from there, it was like I closed the door on, I missed my chance. And I went extreme the other direction. Women and partying and drugs. And I ended up, when I was 21, got that phone call that I had gotten a girl pregnant, and was like, oh, is it mine? Are you sure? And so anyway, I was told the right thing to do was to marry her, because you have a kid, like that's just what you should do. So we ended up having my daughter, and I was 21 when we had my daughter. And then, after we had my daughter, my bishop that I was meeting with to go on my mission was the same bishop that ended up, we had a ceremony and got married and had an open bar. And it was just, years and years and years of just partying and drugs and raves, and just pretty, the great and spacious building. I truly left the iron rod and went into the great and spacious building, and may have been amazing for a time, for years even.
So Brad, what would you say that you felt when you were doing these things? Was God just not a part of the equation at all? Was there never a thought of them at all? Or was it just something you were just like, don't care, don't need them, I'm living my life? And how are you feeling about yourself? What were the thoughts that were coming into your mind of kind of the shame that was coming? Was it that a part of it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the interesting thing is, I became addicted to, lots of things, but I'd say a main one was nicotine. And I needed nicotine, like cigarettes or, tobacco chew or something to change my state. And the drugs became my God. When I needed to feel better, I turned to a substance. I turned to something that could change my, a drink or a smoke or, but God, in hindsight, was always there. I knew the truth always deep down. And it took things always getting at their worst before I finally had a thought of them. I always thought I was fine on my own. I was, thinking I've always been in sales and customer service. And so, there was times that things were going really well and I was doing great with my career, and yeah, until it wasn't. And a few years after just being married, my ex-wife wasn't happy, or she wanted a divorce. And that was a big time that, I started questioning all my choices. Picked up the Book of Mormon again and was reading through it while people were out in our living room partying. I remember being back in my closet and reading the Book of Mormon and just trying to figure out what to do with my life, trying to figure out this mess that I made. Pretty hopeless, a lot of times. But I had this experience where I was literally in our walk-in closet, and I actually had a few friends over, and they were out drinking in the living room, and I was in there reading the Book of Mormon, and I had got to the end, Moroni's promise, and to ask if this book was true. And I had grown up reading it, but I had never taken the time to read it myself. And that night, I just asked God, like, is this book real? Is this book true? And later that night, we went to bed. I had this experience laying in bed. It was just an overwhelming warmth and peace. And I guess I started talking vocally as if I thought there was some type of angel or something there with me. And I remember my ex-wife just being like, what do you do? What are you talking about? And I just had this experience that I can't deny to this day. I truly cannot, and I never will, that I had confirmation that it was true. And from this point, there's still a long climb back, but I had this little taste during all of this that, okay, there's truth in this book. But yeah, that was still pretty early. I still had another maybe 10 years before I finally made my way back. But yeah, that was an experience that, God was there, through some of the lowest times.
Mm-hmm. I often wonder in when we have those kinds of experiences and we've had all of this negative talk or the shame that kind of comes with it. And yet you said it was like another 10 years that it took to be able to get to where you're at today. And I do believe that in God's time, 10 years is maybe 30 seconds. I mean, we think it's so long, but it's the time needed to grow, to progress, to change, right? Because we can stop doing something, right? But is our heart changed? Is it changed to where we're solid, right? Because if I stop doing something for a while, something's going to happen eventually, and I'm just going to be like going right back to what it was before if my heart hadn't changed. So You say it took 10 years. Well, that's okay. I mean, God doesn't care how long it takes. It's just what direction we're facing. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's looking back on it. Yeah. I had lots of, I guess, relapses, where I'd see the truth. I'd do good. My intention was there to do right, but overcoming the flesh, and I'd give in and just be on these long cycles of, crazy partying to losing everything. I ended up getting married a second time, getting divorced again, losing my job, going homeless, I mean, it's been an absolute ride to the point that, I would say a couple rock bottoms, but particularly just not wanting to live anymore. I couldn't function without these substances. I didn't know how to overcome these chains that were literally on me, but I couldn't kill myself. I was too afraid. I couldn't, I had thoughts on like, what's going to be the best way to do this to make sure that I'm not burdening my family or making a mess for anyone else to clean up, and you just come up with all these different scenarios. And then there's one particular time I was out, I was actually just off of a golf course. I wasn't golfing, but I was just kind of by there in some trees. And I got on my knees, and I didn't have a super strong relationship with God, but I just begged the higher power, the universe, God, take my life. Like, just have something happen. Have me hit by a car, or struck by lightning, or choke on a piece of steak, or have something happen that I can just be done with this. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And again, that was another time I had that really strong, that warmth, that peace, that joy. And I look back on it at this time. God took my life, not in the way I was intending it, not in the way that but at that point I had this peace. And again, it's been, that was maybe 5 years ago from, that it's like, okay, another checkpoint along the way that God was there, and there was hope, and so, yeah, it's been quite the ride for sure.
So, Brad, when you started to have those feelings, what were your thoughts telling you? What were they saying about you? Because I know sometimes, well, most of the time, shame is the killer of all that is good. So how did you get to the point to where you weren't listening to the shame anymore, and that you were now listening to what God was telling you? Like, he has your life. So how did you reconcile that? How did you manage that?
Yeah. So that particular time, it's just that little tiny spark of hope that made me, I guess, believe or think that change maybe was possible. I was so dependent on substances of any kind to function. At this point, antidepressants, anti-anxiety. I was diagnosed bipolar, ADHD. I was on like antipsychotics, then alcohol, weed, any drug you can think of, coke, opiates, amphetamines. I mean, I couldn't function without something to change even caffeine. I needed something to make me feel better than I had already been. When I have these experiences, is it maybe to some degree put hope in my mind that I wasn't as broken as I thought. And again, I've truly experienced a miracle, but along the way, coming across certain particular missionaries that came into my life, or I had a mentor who's actually a sealer in a temple. It's one of my best friends to this day that came into my life. And he saw my struggle, and he had made a comment. He said, I've got you. He's like, I'm throwing a life vest around you, and I'm pulling you with me. And he doesn't know. I don't think he really knows what that meant to me at the time, that I wasn't alone through this. And then I got introduced to the ARP, the Addiction Recovery Program, through the church. And to be surrounded by people that this actually worked for. I saw it working for everyone else. I didn't think it could work for me. It works. I'm so broken. I am so screwed up. I've gone too far. Like, this is amazing. I'm glad it's worked for all you guys. I didn't think it could work for me. But I kept showing up. I kept going to meetings, and a lot of my shares were, the ARP is a 12-step program for addicts, addiction recovery program, similar to AA or, Narcotics Anonymous, but for the church. And I kept showing up. And a lot of times my share was, I relapsed again. I'm using again. I messed up again, over and over and over. And that was my story. I was the broken record. It was the same cycle over and over. Until it wasn't. Until one day at a time. Again, I was at a point, I'm coming up on 1 year sober, September 28th. Yeah. I was at a point where I was just so frustrated with my life. I was so sick of the struggle to just survive, just to get through the day and needing something. And I had I'd do good and then I'd fail, and I'd do good and I'd fail, and I'd do good and I'd fail. And I was like, I don't trust myself. I can't follow through on anything I say. I'm a liar. I'm going to use, I was just fed up. And I just had this experience again one night. It was a Friday night. I just decided I wasn't going to put anything in my mouth. And that included all my medications, my anxiety, my depression, and not recommended, work with your doctor. I guess I had fasted to a degree. I was like, okay, I was so miserable and depressed that these antidepressants weren't working. What's the worst going to happen if I just quit them? Like, it can't get in. I hate my life, and I was just miserable. And man, one day at a time. Today's day 350. I still count my days. I have my whiteboard that, just a moment by moment, truly depending on it, opened up a conduit that I can't explain, that I don't know if, again, I'm sure antidepressants have their purpose. I don't know. I feel like it blocked something. As soon as I quit doing everything, some sort of conduit to God opened up, and I have developed a relationship with him by truly getting on my knees and vocally speaking to God. And I didn't understand what that was before. I've never been alone. He's always truly been here for me. I just didn't necessarily feel it because I was so numb to everything. I just, and I'd get to bed at night, and I'd get on my knees and just thank God just for making it through another day, and just know that, okay, we could do it all again tomorrow, and just trying to get through to not use substances to make me feel better. Mm-hmm. And one day at a time. I mean, I remember 21 days into it, just being so angry, so unbelievably uncomfortable, so miserable, so just, I couldn't stand the way I feel. And somehow it passed eventually, and just one day at a time that I experienced the atonement, of what it finally was that night when I decided not to put anything in my mouth. I truly turned it over to God. I said, I can't do this anymore. None of this stuff is working. I just take it. Just, again, another one of those take my life situations. Mm-hmm. And man, this has been the best year of my life. And I've had struggles and trials, but I can function. I can face them. I can handle them. I can deal with them as they come. I have a relationship with God that I'd never had all my life, because I didn't know when I was a kid, my own testimony, I didn't have the need for higher power. And then, drugs and sex, and partying was my God. And then finally, when I literally had nothing left and I gave up everything, I finally got to build this relationship with God. And he has not let me down. He is here for all of us, for me, it's incredible. It's amazing.
I love that. So since then, as you said, this year, what are your thoughts telling you now? What are they saying to you now? There's no more shame. So now, what are the thoughts?
Love, honestly. I guess my outlook on life, I didn't serve a mission, and that has always been something for me. There's I was judging myself, maybe against shame for not serving a mission. So I was like, okay, well, I can serve a mission just with my life. And there's almost some degree of ego in that in hindsight, where it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to be this missionary and I'm going to change the world. And I had actually had a YouTube channel kind of throughout all this, and I built it up pretty good. I was at about 5,000 subscribers, and was, making regular content. It's talking about world currency and politics and cryptocurrency, and it was going well. My intention behind it was, to bring people to Christ, to bring people to God. And I ended up getting shut down for a few reasons, but I had broadcasted, live streamed the general conference on my channel. And that I ended up getting shut off, and I got like a strike, like a copyright for broadcasting. Anyway, and then certain things happened after that. My channel ended up getting shut down. But I've learned along the way that I don't have to, not that it's wrong or bad or anything, but just for me, that I don't have to use my social media necessarily to try to do, change the world. It's about the people that are right here in front of me. It's about my ward. It's about my calling. It's about my temple service. It's about, here and now. And learning to love myself and not being dependent on substances to make me feel better or make me be able to function. I'm working on, and I still have a lot to learn, the law of consecration and learning to love people, or just my surroundings, not for any exchange, not for what I'm going to get out of it. Which, the transactional love where, I'll do this because I'll get brownie points, or I'll, get something out, or I'll gain subscribers, or I'll, and just working on, just love in general, just serving where I can. I'm a facilitator now in the ARP program. I'm just so grateful that I'm recognizing, as I take the focus off myself, drugs, because I needed to feel better. It was all about me using drugs and feeling better. Now that I'm not dependent or stuck, or those chains have been broken, I can actually work on seeing others and loving others and helping them heal, which in turn is helping my healing process. I'm not so worried about myself, and I've got a lot to work on. I'm far from perfect, and I make mistakes every day. That's kind of my general attitude moving forward, is just trying to love and heal. And it's,
That's the definition of charity, is seeing people as God sees them. And when we take ourselves out of the equation, that it's about me, what am I going to get out of it? I need to feel better about myself. It's when we outwardly look and help, like you said, it really is healing for us. It's, I think, the way God made it. I think that's, so when we're choosing to live like God lives as best as we can, that's glorifying Him. Right. So I think the same thing kind of happens to us. And I love that. It does take practice. We're not perfect. Charity is, I think, one of the greatest things that I think we can acquire in this life. And it does, I think, take a lifetime to acquire it. So I find it just incredible that you are able to just say, you know what, God, I'm done. It's you, right? Take it. And I think a lot of times, the more we finally get to the point where we're humble enough to say that and really mean it, it's what He's waiting for. Because again, he's not going to take our agency away from us. He's going to allow us to finally submit our will to Him. And when that finally happens, that's when he, he makes the magic happen. And I love it. And then he turns us into these incredible souls that want to change the world. And we change it, like you said, by our group of influence, those people that we're around, that we work with, that we go to church with, our neighbors, our family members, our running partners, whatever it is, right? That's the beauty of the gospel of Jesus Christ. How it just kind of shift a little bit. How long have you been running?
Sorry, cut out. Just say it lagged. What about running? Sorry.
Yeah. How long have you been running?
Oh, so this is my first year really running. I got sober September 28th of last year, and I needed, especially coming off like the anxiety, it was absolute chaos, just the emotions that I felt, and just I had to get physical to even be able to function. And so I had to go to the gym and burn stress, and I had to run just to the point that I could just exhaust this energy that was inside me. It was truly a release. And then January 2nd, I was invited to start 75 Hard, if you're familiar with what that is. Okay. It's a program. His name's Andy Frisilla, I believe. It's 75 days of specific you have to have a specific diet, you have to drink a gallon of water, you have to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book, you have to have 2 workouts a day for 45 minutes each, and every day for 75 days, like no excuses, no missing. And it was extremely hard for about the first 30 days to just commit to this. But then it just becomes routine. It becomes habit. It becomes discipline. Like I wasn't disciplined in my addiction, or even prior to that, I didn't follow through on anything. I wasn't my word. And I was able to participate in this program. And one of my workouts just became easy. I'd go to the gym, and then I'd go on a 45-minute run. And I have this loop that 45 minutes was about 5 miles. And so I just, every day, it just became my loop. And then I had the idea, like, let me sign up for a marathon. And I did a half marathon previously, and that was really my extent of running. And I was like, let me do a marathon. So I signed up in May for this year for the Ogden Marathon, and man, I've been hooked since.
Yep. It happens. I love it. Have you ran any ultras yet?
Not yet. Definitely on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I had mentioned the Tushers in Beaver. Yeah. One of the most beautiful races I've ran. I think we only did the half, but it was, no, it was longer than that. Whatever. It was beautiful. It was, unbelievable up on the top of that mountain, just gorgeous. So I get, the need to have something to release all of this energy that you have. So then you're left with, just enough to function, but you feel good at that point, right? So you're not completely exhausted, but you've let go of all of that heightened energy, so then you're able to kind of calmly do what you need to do. So I love that. So you've ran 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 races.
Yeah, 2 of those are, let's see. Yeah, that first one of them's a half marathon, and then I've done the last 3 weekends, which is crazy. I did East Canyon, and then I did Nebo, and then just yesterday I did Big Cottonwood. Yeah, so I went 3 weekends in a row.
It's awesome.
I just PR'd yesterday. So, but it's all downhill, yeah. But yeah,
what was your time? 3:22. That's nice. I think that was about what I ran mine in, but I've never ran it since. Not that fast.
Yeah.
As you get older, I seem to get slower. It's terrible. Oh, that's just fantastic. I could
Yeah.
talk for hours about running.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brad, as you're going through this process of change, what has stood out to you to be the most important thing from all that you've gone through so far?
The most important thing, boy. I mean, it's usually say the first thing that just pops up in my head is Christ, is Jesus Christ, and my experience of recovery and actually the atonement is really something that I can't describe. I can't put my finger on to. I can only say I've experienced a miracle, um, which I think just comes from faith. I think, going to, I'd say if anyone's struggling with addiction, which there's all kinds of addiction, getting involved in a support community like ARP and getting around people that have had success kind of gave me that hope first to go and see that it was possible for other people. I didn't think it was possible for me, like I said, but worked for these people. I just kept showing up. There was a point where I was going to 6-7 meetings a week. They've got them all nights like that. That was my social life in the evening. 7:30 p.m. I went to a meeting and just showing up, working the steps. The steps for me is like the practical implementation of the atonement to a degree. The way it takes you through the steps, they're designed to work through the atonement. And yeah, coming to, I guess, experience that the pain of withdrawals, of coming off of the different substances, was hell. Was truly hell. And I had heard this talk one time in a sacrament or somewhere that imagine if in life there was no backspace. What if there was no reverse? What if there was no, undo? And so imagine these choices that I've made that led me down this path of this where I was dependent on these substances, or when I didn't have them, I was in hell. I was in darkness. I was in misery. Imagine I was stuck like that because of my choices. Oh, just kill me now. I could not. Mm-hmm. But because of Jesus, suffered that excruciating pain that I can only comprehend to a degree of what I experienced, and it is miserable. The fact that today I can sit here with you and feel peace and feel love and feel the Spirit and feel joy, Jesus took that pain from me. I have truly experienced the atonement in my life. And it's still a constant learning. I can't tell you exactly what happened, but he took that pain from me. And so I am committed for the rest of my life to be a disciple of Christ, for what he did to have this second chance or third chance, 100th chance, how many is for me? There's truly nothing more that I want than to serve him, to to turn my life over to God, to actually be able to function throughout the day. I was thinking of that, to be able to have a goal and try to work towards it is a blessing. I couldn't do that in my addiction. I couldn't function. I was so off. The atonement of Jesus Christ, and just trying to learn more of what that is and studying the scriptures, truly, the basics we talk about, the prayer, the constant prayer, the studying the scriptures, the temple worship, writing in my journal, the basics of life is so important to my recovery. Just a simple life, just one day at a time. I just super grateful.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I can say that, and I didn't know you before, but you can feel what you feel. And I believe that the atonement of Jesus Christ is a miracle, and no one can really explain how that happens when that shame, that dismal despair is taken from us. We can't explain it, but you're living proof. You're sitting there. None of that bothers you that you had done before. That's something in the past. You've moved forward, and you are now born anew. And that's what Christ, I think, is trying to teach us all. He wants us to be a new person, right? Let go of the old, become the new. And once we get to the point to where we're ready to let go of the old, he's right there with the new. And it's incredible. I love it. That's, I think, one of the most incredible things in being able to sit here and talk to other brothers and sisters who come on here and share their story. It's all the same. We all have a love for Jesus Christ and what he has done for us. It isn't us. Yeah, we had to put in the work, but we couldn't have done it without him. We're yoked with him. And yeah, challenges are going to come. We're still going to make mistakes. We're still going to fall, stumble, just like babies do when they're learning to walk. And I think that's what we are little babies learning to walk. And he's there to pick us up and help us take another step. We'll fall again. We'll take another step, right? Until he's running with us. So I love that. Is there anything else, Brad, that you feel like you want to share?
Boy, man, it's possible for anyone. It really, truly is. I, made many, many mistakes. I would again say that I went over into the great and spacious building from the iron rod from the story in the Book of Mormon, and went to the great and spacious building. And boy, it is scary. It is hard. For a while it wasn't. I thought life was great. I thought everything was fine. But truly putting those chains on me, and, coming to learn, the word of wisdom, always been taught, or the commandments, for example, these things you can't or can do, thinking maybe it was restrictions, and really coming to learn that it's actually freedom by obeying those things. Counterintuitive. Didn't realize that. But life is for learning. We come here, we have experiences, and we learn. We can change. We can grow. And no matter how far gone anyone is, to any degree, I don't care what it is, I have experienced that God loves us. And Jesus did what he did for everyone, regardless. There's a big thing going on in the news right now. And God loves every person that did anything the same. And I have no place to judge anyone where they're at or what they've done. I know Jesus atoned for the sins of all. And so just there's a better way. It is so much better to turn to God and to just put faith in him and take it one day at a time. But as you do that, man, it's just such an amazing fruit, I guess, that I feel now, that I taste, that I know everyone can have it. And I know this life is temporary. We're here to gain our bodies and to have this experience, but ultimately this is temporary, and we just get to endure to the end. But eventually, and who knows when, maybe sooner than later, who knows, we're all gonna return to our Father in heaven, and we're all gonna stand before that judgment bar. And Jesus already took upon all of our sins. We just get to accept him and turn to him, be baptized. And I was grateful.
Love it.
Super grateful.
Thank you. Well, Brad, as we come to a close, I don't know if you've listened to any of the other podcasts, but I like to ask one final question. And I know it'll kind of put you on the spot, but if Jesus Christ were sitting here today across from you in the first person, what would you want him to know? What would you tell him?
Thank you. I'm so grateful for what he did for me, for what you did, for the sacrifice, for the love that you had for me to suffer for my sins, for my mistakes, so that I could live again, so that I could feel peace, feel joy, feel love. And I am eternally grateful. And whatever I can do, I'm here. I'm your servant.
I love that. Thank you. I just love those moments. They're so real. I think sometimes maybe people are a little uncomfortable to be able to say to Jesus in the first person how they really feel about him. But I think the more that people hear how we feel about him, it kind of gives this opportunity for them to feel okay to say, Jesus, I'm thankful for you. And there's no shame in that. And I love that. I love giving people the opportunity to be able to say that. So thank you, Brad, for being open, vulnerable, honest, real. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, to meet you. And I hope one day we can run an ultra together, because that would be fantastic.
Let's do it. I'm planning on it.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Thank
All right. Well, I'll reach out and we'll see what we can do to plan for a race in the future. But until then, Brad, keep coming unto Christ and helping others come to him. So thank you for being a disciple of Jesus Christ and sharing your story.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Leon.
Yep. See ya.